Glenn Beck. Can you believe what has happened here? Reconsidering whether we should have gone to war in Iraq in the first place. Now, I don't want to give it away. I want to let Glenn Beck speak for himself here. Let's get this started.
At the time, I believed that the United States was under threat from Saddam Hussein. I really, truly believed that Saddam Hussein was funding terrorists. We knew that. The unanimous belief was that he had weapons of mass destruction. There was also the element, and this really is what spoke to me, of bringing freedom to the people of Iraq for the first time in their long history.
Wait a minute. It looks like he's warming up to say that he might not have been quite right about that. Release the Kraken.
In spite of the things that I felt at the time when we went into war, liberals said we shouldn't get involved. They said we shouldn't get mired in another foreign mess. We shouldn't nation build. And besides, there was no indication that the people of Iraq had the will to be free. I thought that was insulting at the time. Everybody wants to be free. They said we couldn't force freedom on people. You know what? Let me lead with my mistakes. You're right. Liberals, you were right. We shouldn't have.
What is this? Now, reaction from liberals upon hearing this was like that. Oberyn like head explosions. What? Glenn Beck concedes. Could you imagine if I had told you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, Glenn Beck is going to come back around and say, hey, you know what? You guys were right. I was wrong. We should have never gone into Iraq. Well, here we are. I mean, I guess I should have done the graphic with the told you, right? Boy, did I ever tell you about this one. Now, I didn't predict that Glenn Beck would come back around to this, but almost everyone is now coming around, including Republican senators. Interesting. So now more from Glenn Beck's mea culpa.
But I agree with you. You cannot force democracy on the Iraqis or anybody else. It doesn't work. They don't understand it or even really want it. And they may be too immersed in their own belief of Sharia law to ever be able to embrace liberty, or at least at this time. And if people vote for Sharia law, then they vote for Sharia law. We tried. What can we do? We've lost thousands of American lives. We have lost thousands of lives on the Iraqi side. Tens of thousands have been wounded. We have spent $2 trillion. Let me say that again. $2 trillion. Upwards of 200,000 Iraqi citizens, security forces, aid workers, insurgents have been killed. Now, that's the conservative number.
So there's a decent number of details that he gets a little wrong there. Best estimates are $4 to $6 trillion that we've spent on Iraq. And best estimates on number of civilians killed are close to 1 million. But he's right, 200,000 is the conservative number in that sense. And it wasn't mainly that we thought Iraqis couldn't be free. No, that was not the main liberal argument against going into Iraq. The first argument was they didn't do 9/11. So we are attacking a country that had nothing to do with attacking us. That's kind of an enormous problem. And then second of all, there was a lot more doubt about weapons of mass destruction than he lets on, or anyone let on at the time. But we read the articles inside the New York Times, not just the ones that Judy Miller wrote on the cover, but ones on page A17 and A27. They said, well, yeah, maybe, maybe not, right? And it turns out, of course, there were no weapons of mass destruction. And then the third part of it was not that they couldn't be free. It's that, look, there is no such thing as Iraq. Once you stir up that hornet's nest, then you're going to have Sunnis, Shias, and Kurds fighting one another. And of course, that's exactly what happened. Once we broke it, well, then we owned it for all that time, and we spent all that money. And more importantly, our American troops' lives were lost, let alone the people that were maimed, let alone the Iraqi citizens that were killed. So he's underselling how right we were in some ways, but hey, we'll take it, okay? We told him to fix his face, and he kind of fixed it a little bit. In fact, one more round of apology.
I have more of a chance of hacking off my loyal listeners and my audience by saying this but so be it. Not one more life. Not one more life. Not one more dollar, not one more airplane, not one more bullet, not one more Marine, not one more arm or leg or eye, not one more. The people of Iraq have got to work this out themselves. Our days of being the world's policeman, our days of interventionists is over. If we are directly attacked, so be it. But this must end now. Everything that you have said about it's going to fall apart in the end was right. Everything I said that we could hold it together was wrong. We need to pull out, end this long, nightmarish involvement in this mess. We need to do the same in Afghanistan once and for all. We all agree. Enough is enough. Bring them home.
Well, look, it's a serious topic, and of course it's a little tough to gloat, but I'm going to do it anyway. Come on, man. Submission after all this time. Glenn Beck taps out. I got to give you a little bit of... And,
ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Sorry, out, gone. Okay. Now, look, of course, we cost this country a tremendous amount of blood and treasure getting to this point, and I wish that I wasn't right. I wish that it had gone great. I wish that people didn't have to apologize for what a fiasco the Iraq War has become and has been throughout. But that is exactly what we warned you against. And if I had told you then that we would then have conservatives apologizing 11 years later for ever supporting the Iraq War, well, a lot of people would not have believed that. Unfortunately, the war was such a disaster that it has come to that point.